Welcome to the podcast. Today my guest is Rob Rhodes.
G'day, Scott. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for making the time and coming down and doing it.
Oh, I have nothing but time. Yeah, so I messaged you this morning and said, what do you want me to bring? And you said, oh, bring your rig. We'll talk about it. And it was just finished last night, testing, and I hadn't even done the loom yet. So ran outside in my pajamas and redid the loom. And
there we go.
This will be the first time it's being heard, actually.
This is so people can actually see it.
It's not actually that different from the last couple of weeks.
We should go to landscape mode. There we go. Look at that.
Yeah, right. Awesome.
This is how different things look on an iPhone compared to the normal cameras. But yeah, so just quickly, while we're focusing on this at the moment, at the very start of things, what's on the board and why is it on the board?
Okay, well, things kind of change from week to week, which could be attested by anyone who follows me on Instagram. But there's 3 shows. So there's a 70s show, the 80s show, and now the new homegrown show, which is all Australian 70s and 80s. So everything kind of has to have a purpose. I can't have anything that's just, sits there for fun, let's say. But it's all fun, let's be honest. So it kind of comes into the wah pedal first, and you obviously can't play 70s without a wah pedal, and you can't play Bop Girl without a wah pedal either.
Well, you can't play any era without a wah pedal, really.
No, that's right. And again, it's the crux of guitar players that are challenged for speed, because you can hide behind a wah pedal, and it sounds like you're playing faster than you actually are. Yeah.
Oh.
So for those struggling, sweet child of mine, just move the wah pedal a bit more. It sounds like you're playing faster. So it was a trick of the trade. So it comes out of there into the tuner, and then the EP booster, which is just got the bright switch on, but that's really just an always on pedal. It kind of like hi-fis everything.
Okay.
And then that goes out to a splitter box underneath the pedal board that splits my signal to the talk box. Mm-hmm. And then that signal chain ends there, because if you step on the talk box, it turns off your signal. So long time ago, I would do a Y split out, so that when I step on the talk box, my guitar rig is still live.
Oh, okay.
So then you get a blend of the two. It's not just your vocal mic bringing out your guitar. You've still got that, so as a foundation. So then it splits out of there into the OC5, which I use quite regularly. Things like Funky Town, Summer 69, that sort of thing, where I need an octave guitar, where I might be covering. Is that
an octave above or an octave below?
There's a little bit of octave above blended in there, but it's mostly direct and 1 octave below.
Okay.
So that's just kind of a pedal I've had on there because I'm playing trios a lot. Mm-hmm. Just sort of fills out the sound, and you can single notes. Sounds like there's a keyboard player sort of there. So that works with those sorts of things. Jet Airliner is another one I use, just gives a bit of attack. And then it goes out to the modulation pedals, which are the Microflanger and the Phase 90. So again, very 70s and 80s, those pedals. Mm-hmm. Then it goes into my drive pedals. A lot of people, this is a discussion on between a lot of guitar players, whether you have modulation before or after gains pedals. I always have them before, because I don't want them to change the tone.
Oh, okay.
So I prefer the sound of the modulation into the distortion rather than the distortion into modulation.
Okay.
And then I usually just have a couple of overdrive pedals. This week it's the Rodenberg SL-OD, which is the Steve Lukather signature overdrive.
I'm curious to hear that, actually, because it's one of the things that I've seen online, but I've never seen in the flesh.
Yeah, so it's got a low gain overdrive on the first slot, and then a high gain overdrive, and then a clean boost. And there's lots of things you can do with it. You can put the bass back in. You've got an extra 20 dB boost switchable on the boost side. And that kind of goes in and out with this one, which is That's all right. They survive. Which is the other Rodenberg. This is the Tyler Bryant signature overdrive. And that's just a different flavor because that's 2 tube screamers.
Oh, okay.
That you can stack into one or switch between. And then the second one can go from an 808 to a 909 circuit. So you get even more gain. So you've kind of got, you know, your TS9, your TS10 sort of there in one pedal. And yeah, that's when I want a tube screamer vibe. But for now and then I always tend to have a Klon style, as you know, you've got the
KTR, yeah.
The KTR, which I sold mine a long time ago.
Yeah, I dig it. I love it.
It's so good. But I've got the Mythos Molnier at the moment. And then that goes into the 1176, which is just on the parallel mode, like the blend mode. And there's just a little bit of that, but also buffer on, which then goes to the front end of the amp. And then in the effects loop, this is kind of where the biggest changes have happened recently. The DD500, so it comes out of the MD200, which I'm mostly just using choruses and tremolo. And then into the DD500, which I'm using in A/B mode. So that means you can run 2 delays at once into one another. Currently, it's a vintage digital and the Terra Echo for a reverby.
Oh, okay.
thing. But when I'm in stereo mode, then I've got the circular delays set up in there, very 80s, and the SDE 3000's in there. So I use that a bit. But currently it's just in mono mode, both of those in mono mode. And then the final, this is the biggest change that I've gone through since last week, is the GE7 Boss Equalizer as my lead boost into the effects loop.
Okay.
And then my channel switching on my Mesa Boogie is done. I've got a clean channel and a dirty channel now. Whereas, yeah, we spoke about it before, just previously been gain stacking. Now I'm using going back to amp distortion again.
All right. And you were saying too, because you were using an orange stereo guitar amp.
Yeah.
And now you've gone back to the Mesa.
The orange is loud and brash. Like, it is really in your face. And it has, which I think that amp's going to go up the hill to Paul Pallister, because all of the pots are really, they just spin.
Oh.
Like, you touch them, like, look at them and they move. So you're in the middle of a gig and the vibration is turning the volume down because they're so just loose.
Oh.
So I want to get some just more tensioned pots in there. And so I started putting the bottom, you know, the sticky rubber bottoms from the bottom of the pedal.
Yep.
So we've all got a drawer because we've pulled them off and they're all in there. So I'd stack them and put them under the volume and the gain pot
so they
to stop them from moving, and then also taping them. But yeah, it is, even for just a 30-watt amp with 210s, it was a lot louder and less manageable on some of our tighter stages like the River Cruises, where being open back as well and everyone's on top of everything.
On a stage that's small, it's harder to actually hear yourself because you don't have the space. Like
there's
on a
no
bigger
separation.
Stage. Yeah, there's no separation. I mean, I would imagine that having an amp that being a little bit louder and brash would be helpful.
Well, it is, but I also I'm very conscious of the stage sound.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to hear what everyone's doing, and then find my place in there. So if I'm being super selfish and loud, and it's not only is it putting everyone else off, but it's also not allowing enough guitar in the front of house to have a nice even mix out there, which I'm also doing. But I want to be able to hear the keyboards, because sometimes the keyboards are on their own, and I don't want a ton of it in my fallback. I really just want my voice in there. How
are the keyboards on stage? Is they're coming through an amp on stage, or just coming through?
No, so you just got the side fill on a stand.
Okay.
So if we're really tight, I can hear it there.
Yeah.
But because he's so close to it, he doesn't have it super loud.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's throwing, and then usually I've got the drums in this ear and then the keyboards are there as well. So it's just one side needs to hear everything. So sometimes it's a struggle.
What do you have in your own fallback?
Just vocals usually, and if it's a really, really quiet gig, then I might put some of my guitar in there. There's a little bit of keyboards. I used to have kick drum, but now we've got enough kick drum on stage from the drum fill that I don't really need it in there. And I'm using these new EV concentric wedges, 12-inch ones, so I don't really want to put a lot of kick drum through them anyway.
How do you find them?
I'm loving them just because, as we all know from wedges, with the separation of the horn and the driver, it's no matter where you move, you've got something different happening, and you turn your head to the side or drop your shoulder and the sound changes. Whereas these, you can basically stand right on top of them and put your mic stand between each of them and your pedal board right up to them. And no matter where you move, the sound doesn't change. It stays clear, and to the left and to the right, it's the same thing. It's not just all of a sudden super bright or, you know. So it's been really, that's been a revelation from that point of view, to the point where I haven't even been using my in-ears.
Okay.
Occasionally, certain gigs I'll use my in-ears and put one ear in, but they've been so good I haven't needed them.
Yes. Is that one of the things that you used to do, have wedges and in-ears as well?
Yeah, I have to have both because I'm mixing, as you do, mixing from behind the mic. So I need to be able to hear front of house. I need to hear if there's problems happening. Touch wood, we don't get a lot of that. And just in that instance where I need to hear something quickly, it's hard to hear if I've got something in my ears. And because we're not a super loud band, bass player's not super loud, drummer's not loud, I can hear everything and I don't have to worry about, oh, I need to hear my vocals isolated. There's just the odd gig where the sound on stage is potentially damaging just from a frequency point of view, that I will use my in-ears and someone else is mixing. So in-house, for instance, then I'll use them.
What mix do you have in your in-ears?
It's usually the full band.
Okay.
It's really
like
heavy.
The actual front of house mix?
Not the
actual,
or do you actually
but set
close.
Up a separate mix?
Yeah, it's close. I have set them up in stereo. So it's, you know, you have, it's crazy. But if you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
So I pan the toms, I pan the keyboards left and right. And when I had the stereo guitar, I had that left and right. Sounds so good. And, but my vocals are high, the kick drum's high, the bass is high because I'm a weirdo and I pitch my vocals to the bass, not necessarily my guitar. So the bass is quite loud, and I just want that full band hi-fi mix in my ears because it's fun to play to.
Yeah.
I don't just want my vocals or whatever and then I'm counting on the bleed, you know, to then pick up the rest of the band. I just want to be in the band, so that's why I have the full mix there.
I guess if you don't have the in-ears turned up too loud, you are hearing the other, and that would be that balancing act of how loud the in-ears are run.
Yeah, it's always just about having the best experience and feel on stage so you can be the best performer for the audience. You know, and all that is super difficult on the timelines we're running for setup.
Oh, yeah.
And sound checks are usually just line checks off 5 seconds of hitting an E or an A chord and go, okay.
I mean, this is one of the things that I find setting up the band. Do you find that you invariably spend way more time on everyone else than you do on yourself?
Yes, absolutely. To the point where I had one of our email outs, I had to say to the whole band, when I put my guitar on, I've looked after everybody else. I just need silence for 2 minutes. So no, don't hit the drums, don't test your bass, don't hit the keyboard. Just give me 2 minutes to dial my sound in. That's all I ask. Because inevitably you sit there, you've done everything, you've sound checked everyone else, you put your guitar on, you start strumming and then boom, 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 boom. I'm like, just please. I don't ask for much.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. It is one of those things you try and make sure that everybody else has, because you're trying to. It's that thing of trying to put out fires or preemptively You're preemptively putting out fires.
And you also don't want it to, you don't want to get to the first song and you hit the guitar solo in the summertime by Mungo Jerry, for instance, and you're doing a guitar solo. You don't want it taking everyone's head off. Like, it needs to be appropriate for those first few songs, because your lead level in the first 3 songs is not going to be the same as your lead level in the last 3 songs. You know, because you're dealing with a lunch crowd or a dinner crowd. And
is that one of the things that makes you prefer the type of rig you have as opposed to a processor, because it is much more organic?
Yeah, and if there's something I need to change, I can just
Do it
straight
on the
down,
fly.
change it, turn around to the amp, just go, you know, this room's got a lot of bottom end, take the bottom end out of the amp, or, you know, the bass is taking up a lot of bottom end at this gig, take the bass out. Or something's not cutting through, I could just notch something really quickly. I don't have to, and I've been in the processor world and I'm super fast at that, but it is navigating menus is still just that little bit harder. You're really just trying to streamline everything when you're singing, playing, mixing, entertaining.
Oh yeah.
Then just as we just alluded to, the guitar is the last thing that gets any attention. And so I kind of want it as simple as possible. So hence there's no HX Stomp on there anymore, and there's no these other things that I was using in the past.
I often wonder, you talk about keeping things simple and easy. How do you find, because I know from myself, my board virtually never changes. And one of the great things about that is when I set up, I make sure that where my feet is, I know exactly where button 3 is. So if I move my foot from my stance, my normal stance,
Middle stump.
it's like, yeah, exactly. It's exactly. So if I'm, like you say, we're singing, playing, entertaining, there's all sorts of things going on. The last thing I need to be doing is, where's that pedal? Where's that?
Yeah.
How do you find dealing with that? Obviously, are you setting things up on the board so they're in a familiar place all the time, or does that change as well?
I think it's always a variation on a theme, but things that get the most attention are always in the same spot. So the lead boost is always on my left foot.
Yeah.
Obviously the wah is always going to be on the right foot, and the pedals that don't get used often are usually, you know, they're on that second tier. The always on ones are out of the way, and the gain pedals are right there on my right foot.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's always that kind of thought process put into it. But sometimes I get to a gig and I go, oh, that's okay. The last 6 weeks, this has been here, but now it's over there. And just a little mental note. And I do, you know, last night I probably messed around for 4 hours with it. So my brain instantly goes, okay.
This is where it's at now.
This is where it is. But I did have a funny experience on Sunday. Built a new solo acoustic board with my classic Boss GT3 on it. And the sunlight was hitting the pedal board, and I had no idea what I had programmed to 1, 2, 3, 4, control 1, control 2. But then as I'm playing, the thought process in my head was, okay, so number 1's obviously going to be my octaver, and the 2 and 3 are going to be modulations, because that's how my brain thinks. And then 4's going to be gain, and 5 and 6 were going to be EQ and compressor, because I wouldn't really touch them all that often. And that's exactly what it was. But there was one song where I went, oh yeah, okay, cool, that's gain. But everything else, so yeah, you do that, and you can't read it in the sun. I couldn't even tell that my delay pedal I hadn't even plugged the power back in after testing it. So I played the first song and I'm like, oh, so I can't see the readout, and there's, oh yeah, because I haven't turned it on.
Oh.
Yeah, so I said something the other day, which was, my job is also my hobby. So people will ask, what do you do in your spare time? And I'm like, my hobby. But that's my job. So there's a joy in it of changing things, and the challenge, as you said, of, okay, I'm going to make this work, I'm going to make that work. And all of those things bring me joy. And then to share that, you know, if I just went, oh, I've got one pedal, I've had the same pedal board for 10 years and I just know this one's going to be my lead and I know that's going to be, I feel like that's going to seep into my performance somehow.
Okay.
So I like getting kicked up the butt. I like, you know, being thrown curveballs just because I enjoy challenges. Even back running hotels before getting back into playing music, I liked the challenge of a difficult customer or something going wrong that had to be fixed quick. I love that, being under the pump. I don't know, there's something.
Gets the adrenaline going.
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it, but I can't just cruise. I've never been a cruiser.
Given that, you know, obviously there's a fair bit of time spent looking after the gear.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're looking after, you know, a PA as well and all that sort of stuff and the maintenance that comes with that.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that you can spend time on. How much time do you actually spend learning and practicing songs? Because you do several different shows. So I would imagine the repertoire of songs that you're across is quite large.
Yeah, the nature of playing so often is that there's not a lot of practice required. When we add new songs, which, you know, we might add 10 songs a year to each band, but Homegrown was a new band that only launched this year. So that was a lot of learning because I didn't want to just cherry pick the Aussie songs from the 80s set and the Aussie songs from the 70s set and go, oh, here's something the same but new. You know, we just put a new jacket on it.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be, there was 55 songs and of that, 35 songs were new.
Okay.
So it was a few taken from the 80s and a few from the 70s just to make it a little bit easier on everyone. But there was 35 new songs. And some of these songs I hadn't heard before.
Okay.
I hadn't heard Bop Girl before.
Really?
I hadn't really heard Everywhere I Go by QED. Yeah, I think there's some dormant thing that I heard, but it wasn't on the radio in my house. And it wasn't a big play on the shows that my parents watched. So there was a few songs like that I was digging deep for. Goosebumps, Christy Allen. I never heard that song before. But
you had to be a bit more my vintage.
Yeah. And it had to be in my parents' record collection, to be honest.
Did they have a lot of those? Because in the 80s and in the 70s too, there was a lot of explosive hits, 75 and, you know, was it
Chock-a-Block.
Ripper and all of those greatest hits albums. Did they have a lot of those sort of albums?
They did. There was the Wired collection. When you put the 4 albums together, it looked like the Luna Park Smiley Mouth. And there's a couple that I went and bought. An 81, Hard Knocks. I think it was 81, and there's another one from 81. And I went and found them on vinyl and bought them just for the nostalgia of them. But there were so many great songs like Beautiful World, Devo, and Physical, Olivia, and all those songs were on those albums. But they had I think that's where my love of music came from, because they had such a huge, diverse record collection that one day we could be listening to Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and then Mum's home and she's listening to Dave Clark 5, Neil Sedaka, Barry Manilow. And then Mum and Dad are together and they're listening to the Party Boys and Dragon and the Beatles and the Stones and Doobie Brothers. So there's all of this. And then they got into things from the 80s like James Rain, Australian Crawl, all that kind of stuff, that I got a bit of that. And then when I started discovering my own music around about, I guess it was 88, 89, that I instantly got into Johnny Diesel and the Ejectors and Nick Barker and the Reptiles and then later Baby Animals. So all of that Australian stuff. But then when I started playing guitar, I discovered Van Halen, Joe Satriani. So I started to build my own kind of what I was into, Bon Jovi, etc., that wasn't in their record collection. And started to fill out things with more Clapton and more Hendrix, which my parents didn't have a lot of. And yeah, it was just music all the time in the house. So Countdown Sounds, Hey Hey It's Saturday. It was just all of these influences. And I think I knew from a really early age that, yeah, I'm going to play guitar, whether it's bashing away on a squash racket as a kid.
When did you first pick up a guitar?
Not until year 9 in high school.
Okay.
So they had electives in my high school and guitar was one of them.
Okay.
So we had a teacher who taught, and he basically just did chord charts of songs we wanted to learn, gave us the basics, cowboy chords and scales, whatever. But it wasn't any Mel Bay, it wasn't any of those things. So I'm not versed at all in theory. It's all sort of self-taught because that's what he did. He goes, you go away, learn this song, that's your assessment. And so, yeah, year 9, and then it just, that was it. Everything else, any prospective sports and athletics and all that stuff I was doing, playing rugby league and running and swimming, all that just went out the door, and it was all just about guitar within, you know, a year or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the first band that you ever played in? Was that at high school or was that after high school?
Well, there were always the school bands because we had end of year concerts. So we'd get the drummer from the music class and a keyboard player, and a couple of girls would play the, you know, brass and woodwind, and we'd learn songs from the Fame soundtrack and just play them for end of year concerts. And then the assessments started to happen in 2-unit music, year 11. So then it was pretty much, if someone was doing singing as their major, then they would pick the band and the song and go, okay, every lunchtime we go rehearse. And we learn, you know, you'd learn tons of songs that way. And then out of high school, I guess it was my brother and I, we had a couple of friends, drummer and a bass player, and my brother and I in the band together. And we just play the local pubs, you know, covers.
Local pubs, where was this at?
Ingleburn, so southwest Sydney, that sort of Campbelltown area. And that band, we, you know, did some originals and recorded in the local studio. But that kind of pitted out because the other guys were nowhere as committed as my brother and I.
Was it a very vibrant live scene at that time?
There was a local studio, Boneyard Studio, and that was sort of the hub for everything that was going on. And there was another studio in Campbelltown, Jam Studios. And sort of between that and the local music guitar shop in Guitar World in Campbelltown, there was a bit of a scene of all these original bands playing multi-band nights at a bunch of venues. And so everyone was and festivals, like kind of council festival weekends.
Okay.
And we'd go from one in Wallacia and then get off stage and then drive to the one in Campbelltown. And there was lots of band comps. Like every local pub had a band comp. So everyone's original bands, you'd go there and you knew everyone. And then when I was working at a hotel then, running Ingleburn Hotel, and we did the same thing. Well, there was a bar that was always a live band venue. So coming through there at any time, that's where I saw my first live musicians, from Terry Murray playing solo and duos and those sorts of things. But then we would have Bondi Cigars would come through, the Hippos would come through, Mal Eastick would come through, Kevin Borich, Radiators, Choir Boys, Spy vs. Spy. So, and then my original band at that time got to do a lot of the supports. So we would do those supports for Angry Anderson and a whole bunch of them.
Was it still back then? I mean, I remember when I first started out, and we'd do a lot of those type of supports, and it was up to the support band to supply 2 crew to help load in and load out. Was it still the same way?
Nah.
Had that fallen away by then?
Yeah, because we were just kind of local lads, and I'm talking 94, somewhere around 94, and then we just had a local following, and we'd play the pubs in Camden and Narellan and Ingleburn, and go and do do the odd party and bike club functions. And we did a little CD we recorded live, and not really thinking that having any plan of what we were going to do.
Just enjoying it, having fun.
And the guitarist from that band is actually the bass player in the Rubens now. And we're still really good mates. And it's so good to see them being successful. So a lot of us have stuck with it. But yeah, it was just, you do a gig, a 3-hour gig, mix of covers and originals. And that was just what was expected then. Because everyone would just go, have you got originals? So then okay, let's record this gig, take it to the studio, mix it, burn CDs at home and do our own covers and take them to the gigs and we'll sell them. And we're making our own T-shirts and, just with an iron at home and the printout. So yeah, it was just learning all these little skills. And so yeah, they were kind of the first couple of bands. And then I got trapped in a job, and music wasn't it was still important, but I just got trapped.
When you say you got trapped in a job, like, can you elaborate a bit more on that?
So yeah, friends are off doing their apprenticeships and making $150 a week, and I'm working behind a bar taking home $600 a week, and just having a social life and going out and seeing bands and girlfriends and whatever. And then your priorities start to change. You move out of home, you've got bills. I still didn't have a car at that point because I was just catching the train everywhere or walking, and because I was drinking a lot. And I don't have money. I'm drinking, I'm partying. I don't have money to put in a car.
Whatever you're making, you're spending.
Yeah, absolutely. And and then you start climbing the ladder. You become a duty manager, and that's a little bit more money. And then you become next level assistant manager, and that's a bit more money. And then you go, after 6 years, I've kind of had enough of this. I want to go play music. And then they go, we don't want to lose you. We'll give you a pay increase and food vouchers and a case of beer every week. Oh, okay. So all of a sudden you're making this other money, and you start buying this and start buying that, and start having some quality of life, I guess. But then your opportunity has just blown by. But after 8 years, I said, no, I can't do that. I have to just give this a crack. I want to be playing music. I don't want to be running hotels. So yeah, I went back to work with my old man as a brickies labourer, and then just started going to auditions for bands and got involved in an agency band that was called Rock.Now. So it was just all current top 40 rock. So we're doing Green Day, Blink-182, Nickelback, you name it.
So late 90s.
Yeah, around 99, 2000,
yeah.
2001. And that was a 5-piece band, and we rehearsed and we had set lists, and the agent would go, okay, here's your gigs. Here's you got this one, go there, this time, walk in, PA's there. And I'd never done that because all the gigs I'd done, I'd had my own PA. I'd done everything. And so it was like, this is pretty good. And here's $150. Okay. So after a year, we all start talking like, we need more money. Okay, we can do 170. And so we do that for a little bit longer, and we're going Lithgow, and we're going to the Central Coast and Newcastle and Wollongong, all these places, Kiama. And then I just kind of went, I know you guys are charging this much for us. So if I do the math, you can afford to give us some more. And that, it went for a little while, but I kind of, everyone sort of split. They replaced everyone. My brother ended up in that band. The guitarist that went on to the Rubens, he ended up in that band. My wife ended up in that band. So just became this changeover. And I just started my own thing. And one of the little things I picked up was oh, all these agents want me to be exclusive to them. So we got this band, we got the set list, you know. They want us to be exclusive. So if I come up with 3 band names, I can be exclusive to 3 agents. So that's what we did. So I had, you know, I had Singled Out, I had something else, and I had another band. And all I did was like, that agent, yeah, this is the band completely. Yep, I'll go over to you. This is your band. And we just, they were all the same songs, the same set list, the same lineup. But that's where the burnout happened, because that was 12 years of a slog in Sydney.
Okay.
And it just was not, the set list wasn't what I was passionate about, and it was really hard slog for really terrible money and really slow turnarounds. So you can imagine you play a gig for $750 in the busiest hotel in the middle of the rocks. They take 10 weeks to pay you, and the agent takes 10%. You're like, I can't survive on this.
No.
So the little things along the way, like getting into sessions. Peter Northcote got me into that scene for a little while, but that became really hard because I was living an hour away from the city. So the quick call to come in and do something wasn't necessarily quick. But that was a good learning experience too, of what it took to be in that industry and be ready to sing at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not, you know, Jack Johnson wispy singing. I'm talking Perry Farrell, Offspring style, you know, screaming and rocking out.
Particularly if you've done a gig the night before.
Yeah. And, you know, diverge away from that again. And that Rockstar TV show, I did an audition at that for Molly Meldrum.
Oh, okay.
And that was after 3 late night gigs. And I went in there and sang, Jets, are you going to be my girl? And Molly just looked at me and he went, you had a gig last night, didn't you? And I was like, yeah. He goes, I can hear it. And I said, so why do they keep making these auditions for these shows early in the morning? Like, it makes no sense. And he goes, yeah. So we had a good little conversation. But yeah, that was just to divert away from that a little bit. But yeah, and it just became too hard. And I went back, and actually it was the shutdown in Sydney after the One Punch Attack death, where they did the lockouts in Sydney, that I saw the writing on the wall for all the venues. I saw that on the wall and just started to get all my affairs in order as far as my resume, and start sending that out, and got a job pretty much based on that as an assistant manager with ALH. And so for 2 years I went back to being a hotel manager and just had a ball, to be honest. It was long hours, and again, that whole social thing that comes with working in a pub was great. It wasn't great for my home life, unbeknownst to me at the time, but it was all of a sudden climbing this ladder again, and the promise of this much money, which I'd never made before, and responsibility, and being able to do events, like put on cool events, book bands that I know were good, and start to meet all of these industry people that I'd known through MySpace and Facebook later, that we'd never met in person because we're all just playing the scene. That I just booked them all to come play my pub, and we became like face-to-face friends.
Yeah.
So that became a really good music hub, and we had one of my favorite events I put on was we did like a New Orleans jazz festival, kind of carnival, Mardi Gras thing, and it went for 4 days. And my boss is like, yeah, give it a crack. You know, and I had Psycho Zydeco came in, and I had a whole bunch of these bands, blues bands, and it was super cool. I had Leon Cole, who was on The Voice and who's nephew of Nat King Cole. And it was so much fun. It wasn't necessarily a success across 4 days, but they could just see that there was something there, like there's a passion in me putting those sorts of things on. The best thing to come out of those 2 years was that it was the impetus for us to move up here, because my Sydney was becoming unaffordable and my marriage was falling apart. That's the thing that I didn't really know was happening, just because I was not home so much. And the other thing was I learnt how venues were running entertainment back then, what the goalposts were, what the briefs were, what the money was. Just kind of learnt all of that stuff. And the challenges of it, as far as you've got a pokey room, you've got accommodation, you've got a restaurant, so how do you fit entertainment into that mix and make it successful? So moving up here pretty quickly changed. I was out of the pub within a month and working back to, playing music again after working at Westpac for 5 months and learning that that was not for me either.
So what brought about working at a bank?
I'm always looking for the insider info, so I hadn't owned a house. I still don't own a house. But I thought if I go work for a bank, number one, it's going to be secure. Mm-hmm. There's going to be the chance of promotion. So there's like rungs you can climb. And I'm also going to get the perks of working in a bank. I'm going to know how to get a loan. I'm going to know how to get this. I'm going to know how to get that. And so I learn all that stuff. But it's what came with the job, which was all extinguished with the Royal Commission. So all of the cold calling, all of that sort of stuff, the hard sell, that's all gone now. But that's what pretty much drove me out of the job. But it was learning all of that and learning the finance part that has been, I couldn't have asked for a better place to learn that stuff from. And that was just more experience to take into what I'm doing now and what I've been doing for the last 9 years. And having that ability to just have a different skill set and a different approach to everything has been, I just always like soaking up experiences. So it worked out pretty quick. It wasn't for me, but I made friends and, it was definitely a learning experience that I won't be going back to though.
Okay, so having done banking side, working in hotels, and then coming back to music, like all jobs, if you can call playing music a job, a lot of people wouldn't. As you know, it's a job. Yeah. And like all jobs, there's upsides and there's downsides. What would you say the downsides are?
The downside is there's no sickies, there's no downtime. For me, at least, running this, living in the brand, so living in the 70s and 80s and homegrown, I can't switch off. So you have to be in it all the time because it just demands that, especially now, with having to be such a social media presence. Venues want to see you promoting, and I want to be promoting because I don't want to play to nobody. So it's in my best interest to work hard to make sure everything looks good, sounds good, and to a stranger who just happens to see a video or a post is engaged and captivated enough to leave home and come and watch us. All of that stuff is a trapping because, I do multiple hours every day of the week. I might get home from a gig and I don't just sit down on the couch and watch TV. Some nights that happens, but it is, okay, I go out to the studio or the office. It's more an office than a studio. And, a band payment come in. I'll just pay everyone now. Or I've got to send an invoice, so I'll just send it now. And it might be 1 o'clock in the morning, or I do a lot of work every day. But it might just be, I have to go Monday morning, wake up, update the website, send invoices, and whatever else needs to be done, set my ads up to start Monday afternoon. But that's maybe 2 hours work. So by lunchtime,
You're free.
11 o'clock, I'm free. So Kendall and I we might go out for lunch. We might go out. We've got errands to do. She loves projects. So we go to Bunnings and get tools and, paint and whatever else. So there's that. And then Tuesday, it's the same thing. Like I'll get up, I'll have my breakfast, I'll go out, I'll do a couple of hours that need to be done. If something needs to be fixed, I just make a list of all the stuff that needs to be done for the week and just tick it off. So it might be 2 hours on Monday, 3 hours on Tuesday, 2 hours on Wednesday. But my wife and I, we both work from home. She has Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. So we can do whatever we want. And so I just go, it doesn't need to be done till tonight. She'll go to bed at 10 o'clock and then I go straight out to the office and I might do 3 or 4 hours work. Anything from video editing, doing the new promo, mixing audio down and syncing that to the video, graphic design, any of that stuff. But I love that stuff. I think one thing we have in common through COVID was this steep learning curve of audio, visual, internet.
Well, I sort of had some of that stuff already down, but the actual making stuff work over the internet was a big learning curve for me.
Yeah.
Massive learning curve.
Aged you slightly?
Well, what I did learn was our internet in Australia sucks.
Hey, we're not 47th in the world for nothing.
Oh, man. Yeah. And you learn ways to get around that, and it's like everything in life, there are compromises that you have to make.
Yeah. But that takes a lot of time. So we learnt all that in a matter of, I want to say a matter of weeks, but it's probably a matter of days. We learnt how to do all that.
I think it was a constant learning through the whole process. There was a steep part to get over the hump.
Yeah.
But once you got over the hump, it was still an uphill battle.
And you wanted to keep improving. I know I went from the first one was on a stand on a phone with the PA in the room, and singing and playing acoustic guitar to within a matter of weeks. Or there was 4 and 5 cameras and I'd built MIDI switches to switch the camera angles with my feet in real time.
So where did you get the technical skill to? I mean, that's a fairly technical thing to do, to build a switcher, a foot switch to switch cameras and stuff. That's not something the average person would have any concept of how to do. What made you think to do that in the first place?
I've always loved tech stuff. I'm really a big nerd. I'm just a nerd at heart. From having to program VCRs when they came out and show my parents how to use them, to as soon as I could get my hands on a computer, I wanted to know how they worked, and built my own computers back in the day, and had a printing company. And so it's just all these little things that I just always want to learn and then try to monetize it. Or just do it for the pure pleasure of it. And, like these things, you can go down a rabbit hole with menus and, I started recording on Cakewalk with a computer that couldn't handle it. I had Fostex 16-track digital recorders and Tascams and all of that sort of stuff. So it's always been just in me to want to know how stuff works and be able to be self-sufficient, because that's really what it was about.
And what was going on in your life at the time that you were writing and recording original music?
So this one was cover band days in Sydney, and got into the original scene around Darlinghurst, Balmain, Marrickville, that kind of thing. So I'd been writing some songs and really got on well with the cover band guys that were in. So we had this as a trio side project. And so the songs just started to come out of that. And the drummer had a hookup. He was good friends with Reggie Bowman from Southern Sons, who's out touring with Jack now, doing the anniversary things. And so we went down to Melbourne to his studio and at Warrandyte and recorded the songs. and I was sick at the time.
Oh, no.
And so, but I managed to get vocals out, and I didn't have my guitar rig. So it was fun and it was a learning experience, but it wasn't what I had envisioned, even though I listen to them every now and again. And I go, oh, I really like that song. I still like the song, and I still like how it sounds for the time. But then what ends up happening is every time I do something like this, the band falls apart, or I realize that they're not the right people for the live show, or there's nothing I can see to come out of it apart from playing with a bunch of other original bands trying to work out who they are in a pub to 10 or 20 people, or buy 25 tickets to play a gig and try and sell those 25 tickets to get your money. And then with the second EP, it was a similar thing. I really liked this bunch of songs, recorded it myself, mixed it myself, and then sent it to Sterling Sound for mastering.
Oh, okay.
But again, we did a launch, did some supports, and just realized that these aren't the guys I want to play with, or it's not working, doesn't feel right. And it's a tough slog that I didn't want to keep putting into. So it's fun to go, oh yeah, I've got music on Spotify and Apple Music or whatever, and I've got these EPs sitting in a crate. One day someone, has to dispose of. But occasionally, like at my gigs, we'll do lucky dip, lucky door prizes and stuff, and I'll just throw some of them in there for a lark,
Yeah.
And people go, oh, and they send me a photo that it's on their CD player at home or whatever. And so at this point, it's really a novelty, even though I'm still, I'm proud of those songs and that I've got something out there. And maybe one day, I've got so many 30-second ideas of songs in my iPhone.
Well, 30-second ideas is...
That's where we're at.
Sounds perfect. Well, it is
That's
pretty much...
twice as long as you need. You only need 15 seconds now.
Yeah. Well, getting on to that side of things, there must have been a lot of changes you would have noticed. What would you say some of the significant changes from when you first started to now are?
Young people don't go out and watch bands. They're not going out and watching bands. And they're not going out and being in bands either. So that scene of what I was mentioning where you cut your teeth playing covers in the local pub where you threw in your originals, and that's how you sort of got to know what was required when you made the next step up. I don't see it. I don't see a lot of young cover bands. When I was in my 20s, every cover band were kids in their 20s. There was some of the older cats still kicking around. There was still...
from my memory of it, and this is a different era, I guess, in some ways, but there was pub gigs and club gigs. And the young kids would play in the pubs and the older guys would play in the clubs.
Yeah.
I can remember a time when I was younger, and it's like the concept of playing at Twin Towns services clubs, like, oh, that's where the old people are. Play there. I wouldn't have even seen playing there. That's not cool. And but clubs now are one of the only places, the last bastions of live music.
Yeah, because they're trying to capture all demographics now. They're not just, it's not just a board and a whole bunch of, members that are there every day writing letters. It's like they've become about, they still have to be for profit. Even though they're not for profit, they have to make a profit. So yeah, that's, I don't know how, that's the biggest change, is that when I was 18, 17, 16, sneaking in to watch bands in the local pub, that's kind of the saddest thing I see, is that the majority of us who are successful in the cover scene are playing majority over 50s. because that's where the culture is still there.
Yeah.
People long for it. And the nostalgia of them remembering their childhood of doing the same thing and hearing those songs, that God bless them, you know, we wouldn't have a job without them.
That's true.
And then occasionally you see a kid who's a musician who comes in and dad brings them, and that's great. But where it's might have been a 50-50 split at one stage, but it's not. It's just gone. I don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, there are young bands getting around, and I think they're playing to a young audience. There's just not as many places for them to play. I've had quite a few of them come through the studio, and there's some really talented young players, because their ability to access information is so much greater than when it was when we were young. There's just a plethora of stuff online now. I mean, if there's any song that you want to learn, there's 300 different ways to learn how to play any Van Halen lick you ever wanted to learn, or anything for that matter.
You couldn't work today, I don't think, and I could be wrong, because there are Cloudland and the Riverfire and all those sorts of places that still put on gigs. But the days of every pub and club had a top 40 band playing, you couldn't be a top 40 band today. I don't think there's enough songs, you know, like that people are going to come and watch.
I can remember a time of looking at the top 100 and not be able to find a song that actually had guitar in it. But that's turned around now.
Yeah, no, there's lots of guitar.
There's lots of guitar and stuff again. I think music, it's one of those things. It's like everything in life. Everything changes. There's a constant sea of change. How do you see things changing with AI? Have you had much experience of actually even playing with AI or listening to anything that's been produced AI-wise?
It makes me sick in my stomach. I can hear it.
Oh, yeah?
I can hear it. I can see it when it's AI on the screen. We were just watching the Bigfoot vlogger this morning. It's so funny, but amazing. Like, you look at it, you go, oh. And it's
incredibly entertaining.
It is, and it's funny, but you can see, like I can still see it. As good as it looks, I can see it, and I see it as animation, like cartoons when I was a kid. So he's just the latest Bugs Bunny, you know. And the music I can hear, as soon as auto-tune, there's something in my body that just rejects it.
Okay.
And whether it's that for an effect, the T-Pain Sure thing, that just annoys me. I can see it, why it was used that way, and I can see it as a tool, musicality-wise. But when it's on every single vocal, when live bands are doing promo videos and you can hear it on their vocals, I'm like, that person can sing. Why are they doing that? Why is it on there? And then you can hear it in songs where I know that person can sing. Why are they putting it on there? That's a choice that someone's put it on
using it on
there.
TV shows and stuff too. Like on the Voices, they've got auto-tune on those things.
Yeah. And I'm like, why do they still sound...
Well,
and sometimes it makes them sound worse.
Yeah.
Because they're not close enough to the note, to pull the note.
Or somebody's put it in the wrong key.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw was it a Billy Joel thing or something where he performed live once and someone did it to his voice, and actually it was a thing where he bent the note and it sort of made it go all wonky, and it's like I remember seeing an interview with him where he was incredibly pissed off, shall we say. Right. We should make a bit of noise with your rig. Let's work out. Play me some 70s riffs. You would have been, I would imagine, born in the 70s.
I was born in 76, yeah.
76. Well, there you go. If you were going to play a Doobie Brothers tune, what sort of a sound would you go for?
Oh, yeah, it's just kind of like, I guess I'm going to have this on and maybe some others. You know, kind of that neck pickup or middle. And probably maybe not that much gain, but little bit of delay on the repeat, you know, because then it's got that stop. Yeah, so we don't do a lot of that stuff, but yeah, and we've gone from that kind of classic. 9 years ago when Living in the 70s started, we were that classic rock thing. And it is now morphed because we were seeing 70% of the audience being women. So we morphed into more of a dance party band.
Okay.
So there's a lot more of the...
Because it was musically very diverse,
Yeah.
the 70s.
And we go from AC/DC to, you know, the Tramps' Disco Inferno to Sweet Caroline, to Ballroom Blitz, and yeah, and then there's blues stuff. We do Chain, Jump in My Car. You know, like Jump in My Car would be something like a slap back. Maybe something like... I'm also that type of guitar player that I don't go for the authenticity. Go for the feeling, but I have the ethos of if they want to hear the record, go listen to the record. Go watch the DVD. It's like you're coming to see us do our interpretation of a song or the 70s, and I will hit the things I need to hit. But it's about our personalities and performance of a song, and as much as it is about the song. So I think that's what keeps people coming back. We might get people come 3 nights in a row, and number one, it's never the same set. We don't play a set list, and there's a ridiculous amount of 160 songs in our repertoire, which I'd say regularly rotate. About 65 of those are in the main set. But you get the swing dancers, so you play something for them, and then you get the rockers that want the AC/DCs, or then you want to sing along, so April Sun, and you know, like all of those sort of ones. I just kind of, there we go, like,
Little bit of modulation.
so it's kind of got that chorus. I don't have to play an acoustic.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an acoustic and electric. And then you blend it with the piano, and it becomes our own sort of thing. And yeah, I think that our jokes aren't the same. Our one-liners aren't the same. Our chatter between songs is never the same. If I come up with a really good one-liner, I might use it for a weekend at different venues that I know there's different people, and then I just retire it forever. It's like a stand-up comic. When somebody sees it, it's like, I don't ever want to repeat myself. And I guess I sort of challenge myself as a guitar player from that point of view too, because I've got all the speed and dexterity of an Eric Clapton, but the fire and aggression of a Gary Moore. You know, so, but that's that personality. It's still retaining who I am, but also paying respect to the song and the era.
If you had to pick a favourite song from the 70s, what would you say that favourite song would be? And do you play it? Is it a song that you listen?
I don't play any of my favourite songs because, again, I feel I'm there for the people.
Yeah.
So my favourite stuff will clear the dance floor.
With the Led Zepp thing, was Stairway to Heaven one of the things that you ever learned?
No. I actually have a funny story about that, because one of those school concerts, the year below us, so we were in our second year of guitar and they were in the first year, and he asked me, I want to do Stairway to Heaven at the school concert. And I was like, nah, I'm not interested. Sorry. Not only was I probably not capable at that time and didn't want to make a fool of myself, it was just like, nah, I'm not playing that song. That's just rife for ridicule.
It's interesting how songs that were at one point iconic go through a period of smelling a bit funny,
Yeah,
shall we say?
I don't know if that was. I think.
Is it because that every budding guitar player who turns up at a music store has to play that riff?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It became a meme before memes were things.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a good impression of a young 15-year-old guy.
Oh, no. This is the 15-year-old school kid that comes into the music shop every afternoon, picks up the cheapest guitar and goes...
Oh, you've heard him? Yeah, I heard he's been on tour.
Yeah, actually, I saved his life one day. I stopped hitting him.
And sometimes when I'm like my solo gig, if I'm doing tribute, you know, like and I go. And I'll like just throw a little thing in there for comedy, but it's an amazingly written, constructed piece of music. Like it's genius, but it's not in my wheelhouse because that is not how I learnt to play. So it's really difficult. I think when I started doing White Tree Weddings, so the turning point for me as a guitar player was moving up here, because in Sydney, and same as up here, I've just always done my own thing. So I was never like in a band for very long, being told what to do, what to play, where to go. I always knew that I wanted control of my own destiny. I know what gigs I want to do, how much I want to get paid, that sort of thing. So when I moved up here, I started from scratch. I didn't know anyone. So White Tree was the first thing because some of my Sydney crew recommended me to Tuddy. And so I just sent them some stuff and they're like, oh, great, we need people like you. And so I was doing all these White Tree Weddings, but I had to work because I never learnt any song properly, really. You know, never. I just went, oh, okay, I'm just going to do Summer of 69. I know the chord changes. I'm not going to learn the little intricacies and the nuances. I'm just going to play because we're just a party band and no one's paying attention anyway. It's about the vibe. But when I moved up here, I went, I've got to prove myself. I have to be better. So I would sit every day, and I hadn't done this except for the first couple of years of my playing, is just sit and practice every day and learn passing chords. For instance, two of the hardest songs I've ever had to learn was Once in My Life, Stevie Wonder, with no keyboard player.
Oh, wow.
So you have to, and sing it at the same time. So you're doing all of these passing chords and arpeggios and triads that I've never really looked at in my entire life. And the other one was I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston with no keyboard player. So you're playing all of those inversions under the vocal and you have to make them clear. And that turned me into a much better guitar player. But I made the conscious thing of learn the songs, learn to play properly, then do whatever you want with it. But at least have that as a base to come back to. If you're not playing well, at least you've got that, you know, to come back to. And so, yeah, that was a really pivotal moment for me as a guitar player, was just going, I got to work hard because I have to prove myself, because I don't want to make a fool of myself, because here's Terapia Richmond on drums next to me looking at me. I don't want him looking at me going, who is this guy? Like, where'd they get him from? Or any of those amazing singers that they have, you know, and have played. That was a moment where when I put in the work and I went to the showcases and I did the gigs, it was the first time I went, I can hold my own with these people. Because we all probably suffer that imposter syndrome. It has a name now. But feeling like you don't belong there. These people are way out of my league. And just being able to stand on the stage and come off after a song, and then they're the ones coming up to you going, man, what you did, I've never heard anyone do that before. How did you know? And you go, oh, wow. There's a vindication and a little bit of a confidence boost to go, I'm on the right track.
Well, you've spent, and also, I guess, like you say, vindication, but it's also a pat on the back to say, well, you've done the work.
And that's what it is. You put the work in.
You've put the work in.
Yeah. Because anytime I haven't, I turn up to a gig and I make a fool of myself. But it's forgotten. That's the whole thing. I am a serial procrastinator. But I've been working through it to not be one. So, and Homegrown was getting that off the ground was
Well, 35 new songs to learn.
And going, we're going to have one rehearsal for this. So everyone's going to have done their homework.
Wow.
And not only that, it's the tracks. So you learn the song, because we don't have a keyboard player, we're a 4-piece.
Okay.
We got tracks for the keyboard parts. It's like I have to learn the song, and then I have to know the arrangement. There's no fluff.
When you're doing tracks, there's no wiggle room.
Yeah. So yesterday I spent 3 hours playing through the set and just getting, because we haven't had a gig in 3 months and we're not going to rehearse before the weekend. So, okay, if I know everything, then I can just drag everyone along with me. I can do cues, get everyone, and all the little tricks, putting them in the tracks. Like I've got hi-hat hits that signal the vocals are coming in, and hi-hats at the end of the song's coming. All the things I learned after the first couple of gigs. So, or I've got the MIDI switch on the floor that I can just go, oh, this is going sideways, just stop the track and let's just play it without it. So all those little fail-safes. But yeah, I will do probably 3 hours again tonight of the songs, and tomorrow, and then Thursday, and then we've got gigs Friday, Saturday. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you do anything as far as aerobic exercise goes? Because do you think aerobics have anything to do with singing?
Oh, absolutely. It's cardio. So, but because I'm working so much, that's the activity. Is getting to a gig 3-4 hours before and lugging the PA in, setting everything up, and then playing for 4 hours and packing down.
That makes for a long day.
It is. Yeah, it is. But again, it's my hobby. So people go, how do you get here 4 hours before? I go, you want to know why? Because I like to make sure everything's right, and then I can sit down, have something to eat, and just chill out. But we were rushed last Sunday for Cooley Rocks at the Cooley Hotel, and I was driving to the gig and just, I don't even know if you would call it a mental health episode, but I was just going through Chindera and just felt this weight on my chest and couldn't take a breath in.
Wow. And
it just felt like the end of the world was coming. And I've never really felt anything like that before. And I got to the gig and everything was rush, 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 and things weren't right. And then I was like almost going to cry. I felt like I was going to cry in the middle of the first set.
Oh, wow.
And my guitar playing was terrible. If any, I just concentrated on my singing, but I couldn't do anything. And someone asked me, the drummer was like, are you all right? And I go, no, not really. It's like, this is happening and that's happening. And everything just feels like you're hurtling through space at 1,000,000 miles an hour and you got nothing to grab onto. And then I made a couple of changes to my guitar rig, put my in-ears in, and just sort of started to make eye contact with the audience, and that pulled me out of it. But yeah, it is a tough, I know like so many musicians go through it. Like it's a tough thing when you're up there and you're feeling good and you're getting adoration, and it's the come down you have to really manage a lot. Me, I've never had a problem with that come down, but just every now and again, it's just something descends and you don't know where from.
I was just wondering, did you know that the situation you were walking into and that was the because it is an uncomfortable thing when you don't have the time to prepare for when you're standing on stage to play, and you feel like you're being rushed, and you know that you haven't ticked off all the boxes in your head. That's a difficult thing.
And that's probably my control nature, because from the time I leave the house or from the time I wake up on gig day, I feel like I'm in control of everything. Mm-hmm. I'm in control of what I eat, what time I leave, whether there's going to be traffic, so leave earlier. Like, I'm in control of all that because I'm not going from a day job. Mm. But when you're going into a situation where there's a in-house PA, there's a soloist on before you, there's a massive crowd because it's Cooley Rocks, and you don't go through all those processes, all of a sudden you're standing there and you go, I didn't earn any of this, you know, like I didn't set that up. I didn't sound check that. I didn't, you know. So there's all of these, yeah, it becomes a ritual. And when you don't have the ritual, it kind of feels like something's missing. Mm-hmm. And that's why I always get there. Like, I still, for a solo gig, I'll get there 90 minutes before sometimes, just because I don't do them that often. I just want to make sure everything's there, everything's good, good to go.
So when you hit that first note, you can feel confident.
Oh, that's another story. I don't know what my voice is going to do until I sing the first song, because I don't know what my range is. I'm not educated in any of that. And then the drummer will go, because the drummer's kind of our musical director from back there. Mm-hmm. And he'll go, oh, can you sing Heard It Through the Grapevine today? I'm like, I don't know. Can you sing, are you ready to, and I'll go, oh, I can't sing Show Me the Way yet. There's a note that I don't think is warm yet. You know, so I've got my warm-up songs, because I don't do vocal warm-ups. I've just never been able to do it. I just always use the set as my vocal warm-up. And then by about 4 or 5 songs in, I know, okay, I'm going to be able to sing Long Way to the Top and Ballroom Blitz and Heartache Tonight and all of these songs tonight. But I don't know that getting to the gig. So there is that thing where if your vocal strength isn't there, there's this doubt. Mm. But you know it well enough.
I guess that's the biggest thing I find from a confidence point of view. If you know that your voice isn't performing at its best and you're struggling, it's a really, really hard thing to mentally get through.
But you have tricks, right? So like you can sing notes down instead of up and still maintain melody, because I think
I'm
that's
really
important.
lucky. I can pretty much sing through most things, but when I've got I do have bronchial issues every now and then, and if I get a bronchial infection, I can't pitch.
I learnt a long time ago that I could, for use of better term, was to pitch my vocal off different places in my throat. Mm-hmm. And then you could go nasally. I could push from over here to get the note out. So I can sing normal full voice on a note, but then I can go, oh, I've got a throat infection and I'm really struggling with my vocal cords. But I feel like I can, if I visualize singing off one side, then the note comes out. But if I don't concentrate, then it just goes, it's just weird things that I've always managed to find ways around notes. And when I used to do fill-ins, the singer who would come to the gig at the end and go to me, oh, really liked your note choice in that song. He goes, sometimes I can't get to that note. And I go, well, then why do you try? It's like, if you can't get to it, don't do it. You know, because number one, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt your voice long term. And number two is that people are going to hear it. So I would rather see a singer sing within themselves if they're not at 100%, than see them struggling and not hitting notes.
And potentially blowing their voice out altogether.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're struggling early on, because that can be the difficult thing. If you're struggling early on, you know, it's one of those things to get towards the end of the night. And I know that if I really push hard, you can knock the notes out.
Yeah.
But you can only do that for so long.
And then nothing comes out. I'm like that with Heartache Tonight, the choruses and the kind of like the bridge section of that song, super high. for me. And if I'm not 100%, by the end I'm blowing. I'm like nothing. They're still coming out, but I feel like I've got no breath left. There's no strength in my diaphragm, and I'm just tonight. Yeah. And that's one of those songs that we always I'm going to leave that out tonight. And in the 80s one, it's Eye of the Tiger, because we do that in B, and sometimes it's still, because it's constantly up there, there's no kind of relief. But because it's in a certain spot, but I can sing songs higher than that with no problem.
Yeah.
And you just go, oh, why? Because I know my break in my voice used to always be around sort of C sharp.
Okay.
And now my break is a little bit higher.
Oh.
I've moved it. So E flat, sometimes if something's in a certain place in E flat, I'm in between that chest and head voice, and I'm struggle to go, where am I going to put the note? Because I've got no strength in there in the middle. Yeah, the battles of the one thing you can't control. Like, you can control these things.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel right, pick up a different one. You know, turn up, turn down, more gain, more delay. All these things you can hide behind. But if your voice is not, you can't, there's nothing you can do.
How many guitars are you carrying to a gig these days?
I sort of mostly take 4. If I'm away on the sunny coast for 3 gigs, I'll take 5 guitars with me. But mostly 4. So I've got sort of first set guitars in the 80s at least. Like, I'll use the Telly or the Strat in a first set because it's more that dinner vibe, you're not rocking yet. And then the second set will be the Duran Durans and the Ice House, and so I need a Floyd Rosey type of thing for that. And then the last set will be the Guns N' Roses, Bon Jovi, so Les Pauls and that. So I need that for that. And then if I break a string, which doesn't happen very often because I change my strings often enough. And then sometimes guitars just aren't working. So like my Duesenberg was my number 1 guitar for a long time. But then I just started playing that and this more, and the Duesenberg feels foreign and it doesn't feel like I could do anything on it. Kind of given that a break. And these are sort of my 2 number 1s now, as far as that goes. But then I just want to play a Strat sometimes. So grab a Strat, and I'll use that for a little while. And yeah, I guess it's 4. And then the Cooley Rocks, we went back to a 4-hour call. So to kind of give the guys a break, because we had a massive run, I started the second and third set with a couple of acoustic solo songs. Okay. So then they only had to play really a 50-minute set. And so I took the acoustic and 3 electrics. But I can get by on 2. You know, if the 70s show, I would take I'd take this and the Duesenberg, and I could do the whole gig. I could do 3 gigs with that. Sometimes I'll take 3 guitars and play 1 show with each guitar and not even change. You know, so everything's about versatility. That, having the EMGs, you'd be surprised, the bridge pickup on single coil on that. Play anything with the right gain structure.
Oh, yeah.
You can do Guns N' Roses or AC/DC, and it's got the attack. So, and this can do anything. This is kind of like my, just bash it up. This is my, couldn't live without guitar. So I could sell everything else and get by on this. So this is my 2006 Memphis Fat Neck 335. And it's, I would say it's all original, but I have changed the tuners a couple of times.
A couple of times?
Well, I tried locking ones.
Oh.
And then we've established that I don't like things sitting around in drawers. So I sold the originals.
Oh, no.
And then the locking ones started to deteriorate because they were, I want to say they were Godo ones. Mm-hmm. They started to deteriorate. So then I just bought some Gibson Deluxe ones, just standards, but they're the silver ones, not the aged nickel. So, you know, they're not original. That match is very silver up here, while down here it's, and the bridge.
I'm surprised you haven't changed. I'm surprised you haven't changed the pickups in it.
Oh, they're the best pickups ever. 57 Classic.
Well, I've just seen you change pickups in so many guitars.
Yeah, but these are perfect. So that's what I think. I'm always searching for something. That's why things are changing constantly and they're in flux, because I'm just always searching for something in a certain song or for a certain band. And this can do it all, except when you're super loud. So if you're super loud, you have to have the skill to control that feedback. So it feeds back beautifully. So if I hit... If you let go of it. So when you're playing in a band and you have to play loud enough and you got to have that much gain, you have to be really controlled with your palm muting and your right hand, or your left hand, to really control that.
Yeah.
But because it feeds back so musically, it's not microphonic, it's not squealing and going crazy.
It's the body resonating.
You can deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of that. So, you know, I wouldn't play some heavy rock thing on it for a long amount of time, but you get by on one or two songs. But yeah, it's and then the bridge, I changed out the bridge for one with brass saddles.
Oh, okay. What, did it make much of a difference having the brass saddles as opposed to the steel?
It was an experiment. I tried them on 3 different guitars to see if it changed the guitar any more.
Did it make a difference to the string breaking?
No. I got a really aggressive right hand, so if I do more than 3 or 4 gigs with a guitar, I'll start breaking strings. But yeah, that didn't really have much of an effect. I still break strings, but there seemed to be just a bit more, and it's vague but there seemed to be a bit more tone, like just a bit more definition with the brass. And I still got it on this one, and I think I still have it on one of the other guitars, maybe the SG, which I'm doing up with new pickups.
I've got to get my SG. I've got to get the neck put back into it. I've pulled it out of I just had the neck brake fixed on my SG, and then I got to a couple of gigs later and took it out of the case, and the neck had separated itself from the body. And I just haven't gotten around to getting it fixed yet.
Well, mine's a Japanese Epiphone. So
I don't think it matters what...
It's pretty, but it's where the neck, so they do the scarf joint, which is different to Gibson. So they don't break the headstocks. I've hit them. I've got a bunch of Japanese Gibson tributes, let's call them. And they are so rock solid. And yeah, the way they don't do the joint on the headstock.
Right.
So they do it further down here.
Oh, okay.
So I think they call it a scarf joint rather than where the Gibson put it on. But I've had a couple of hits on this and it's been pretty good, but it's a chunky neck. It would take quite a
Oh
hit.
man, I've seen it happen to so many Gibsons. It's such a... But the thing is, if they get it fixed properly,
they're stronger than ever.
Stronger than ever.
Yeah. The Gibson smile. But yeah, the Epiphone, I just got some Steve Stevens, what are they? Bare Knuckles.
Oh, the bare knuckles.
And it's got the Peter Green mod
Okay.
with the reverse magnet. So I'm going to take that up to my guy in Brisbane and get that set up.
All right, we'll put you under the pump. Let's do some. We'll play some 145, and you can do some improvising.
Oh, gee. All right.
We'll check out
Apologies ahead of time.
We'll check out the improvising skills. So we'll get the whole. So hang on.
That's all right. You just pick the key. Tell me what, because you're half a step down.
That's all right. We'll make it in A.
All right.
We'll make it in A for you. Or is there a preferred key?
No, not really.
In A?
Improvising in any key.
145 in A.
that feedback.
That's a great thing, that feedback.
You realise how hard it is to get people out of their houses now with everything that they've got at their fingertips. You know, I don't want to leave the house. Kendall and I sit there and like, okay, what shows are we watching now? Okay, we got this one and that. Oh, okay, let's turn Disney off now and turn Stan on. And, you know.
Are you watching Mobland at the moment?
No.
You got to get onto that.
Try not to watch too much
great.
violent stuff at the moment. It's eating into my psyche. So mostly light stuff, but I still allow the zombie shows because you know the stories about people. The zombies are just the setting; they're just the backdrop. But yeah, real stories, real people.
Rob, thanks for spending some time with me this
Scott,
afternoon.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, man. I hope we touched on some interesting stuff.
I think we did.